Okay, hi everyone. We're doing a mini glaze class for those of you students who have missed the last lesson. Firstly, we're just going to talk about what is a glaze. So you know that silica is, you probably know silica is one of the main ingredients in the world. Silica is found, all of our glaze materials are found in the earth or in rocks, but silica is the one that makes glass. It's the melty one and the one that actually gives us glossiness and gives us that beautiful quality of glass. Of course, silica is made in all the windows and so many things. However, it has a very high melting point. So in glazes where you might think we fire high, but in relatively to glass melting, we actually fire quite low. So silica on its own, the melting point is about 1700 degrees. We fire at our clay matures at about 1240 degrees. So we need to try and bring that melting point down. And we do that with this group of materials that are called fluxes. That's the name of the group of materials. Fluxes just means melting and lowering the melting point. So I won't go into all the technical detail about what is a flux and what are some of the names of them, but just as a group, they help to bring the melting point down. And then we need things that are stabilizers that stop the fluxes melting off the pot and give it a range of melt rather than a point. So again, they're a group of materials that are more sort of fillers, that are body fillers, that are sort of more the clays in the world that will stop that point of melt and allow it a slower range so it doesn't drip off the pot and onto the kiln shelf and get stuck, because we don't want that to happen. And then of course we've got other things that create either opacity, so making the glaze less transparent, opaque. We've got other things that add colour as well. So all of our oxides and metallic oxides such as copper or cobalt or iron give colour into a glaze. Okay, so we're going to look at our particular test tiles here of the glazes first, and also this key. So on each of our test tiles we've got the same format. What we've got is a stroke of white slip underneath, and if I look at one of these clear glazes you'll see the white slip is painted. It's a different colour than this underneath here. So we've got the white slip on all of the test tiles is on the left hand vertical side. Then the actual whole left hand vertical side, so this whole side has been dipped in glaze, so that's one dip, and then the whole horizontal side, the bottom, has been dipped in either the same glaze or another glaze. We'll get to that in a minute. So there's two glazes on each tile, and where they overlap in this bottom corner, number 2, is a very rich zone, because that's where they overlap together, plus they've got a bit of white slip under them and a little bit on each side without white slip. The vertical always clear, and underneath we've got Takeshi on the horizontal, which is this one, white, which is this one, blue, which is this one, and black, which is this one. And it's the same for each of these. Underneath each one at the top is the same glaze as the top one on the left hand side on the vertical, and on the bottom on the horizontal it's a different one. So clear, white, blue, black, etc., etc. We haven't done it for the black. We haven't followed down the list for the black because we actually don't want people dipping the black in the vertical first and then contaminating other glazes when they cross over. So we've always saved black. Black is always on last, second. If we look at these bottom corners, especially when we've used black, you can see that there's a whole range of different colours in here that perform so differently when they've overlapped with each other, and that because the black is quite a potent colour, very strong, a lot of oxides of metals in the black, it'll perform quite differently. So let's look at this tile. We've got white slip, we've got clear, you can see a little line of clear here, and we've got black over the top of the whole lot. And then in here we've actually got this sort of lovely glossy kind of indigo blue colour, which is a mix of the black over the top of the clear and the white underneath. And on this one we get this sparkle of gold or yellow that happens without the white slip, and with the white slip it's a blue. So you can see in one test tile we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different responses from just 2 glazes and 1 slip. So the first thing, bisque firing, if we tap it with our fingers like this, you can hear it ringing. That means that it has actually gone into a firing already. So with the bisque firing we take them up to 1000 degrees and it makes them porous. So that's the main reason why we do it. So the porosity of the clay, and this I'll just demonstrate that by putting a drop of water onto the clay, and you'll see that it starts to soak in straight away. And as that's soaking in, you can imagine once it's dipped into the glaze, that's what enables the glaze to dry on the surface. It enables us then to be able to handle the pot much more easily without damaging the pot. We've moved on to the actual glazing now, so we're just going to demonstrate how to get the glaze onto the pot, and in a way which is even, not going to fall, not too thick, and particularly not going to roll off the pot and stick to the kiln shelf. The first thing we do is we just give a little sand. And if you were doing this with us here, we've got a little dish of sandpaper lying around, cut into little squares so that you can get into the foot ring, and we give it a little rub. We don't want to do it too much because usually we send you outside to do this because of dust. If it's been sitting on the shelf, it might have some dust, and if you're in your own studio and you're not, you're spending a few months between glazing things, you will definitely have dust, and it would be worthwhile wiping it off. And then we're ready to dip. So what we've got here is our green glaze, which we didn't have samples of, but we've also got a black glaze, and I'm just going to show you firstly how we get it on, and then putting another layer on as well so that you can see the 2 layers overlapping each other. So we've stirred up. All glazes settle. They're made of heavy materials, heavier than water, and they settle after time. So we've actually stirred up these buckets, got right into the corner. We actually use toilet brushes for this because we can get right into the corner of the buckets and get all that heavy material up and into suspension. We also double check that the thickness is correct and that the glaze is not too thin or too thick. And if it is too thick, I've actually added quite a bit of water into this one and thinned it down because it was on the thick side. And we mix our glazes up here at Slow Clay Centre for a 5-second hold. So that means once it's in and you're actually doing it, or once it's under the liquid, you're counting to 5. So let's just do that now. We do the inside first, take up a little bit in the scoop, pour it into the inside, and then we start counting to 5 as we take it around 2, 3, 4, 5, and once for good measure. And then tipping it out, just that once for good measure was really just to even it out. Holding it upside down now, we've covered the inside hopefully, and then we can go down on the outside. So we usually put it on a little bit of an angle first to let a little bit go down in case you've missed the inside, and then we even it up and take it down. So opening up, letting a bit of air in, flattening it down, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out again, and then holding it on a bit of an angle, giving a bit of a shake to get the last few drips off, and touching it on the edge of the scoop just to take the last few drips off. You can see it's still quite wet, but it's actually losing its sheen a little bit now. You can hurry it along by blowing on it, and soon it'll be touch dry. And as soon as it's touch dry, you can do the next layer if you want to do another layer. Maybe you'd like to do 2 layers of green, and that's fine too, but probably holding it in longer would be a better result. But if you wanted to do a thick layer of green at the top and a thin one underneath, you could do a second layer. But today we're just going to do black as the second layer, and you can see now it's touch dry. I can hold it and not leave a mark on it. So that's when we would do the second layer. So this is a black glaze. You can see it's a brown colour, but you don't go by the colours in the buckets at all, because when they melt they'll perform completely differently. But we're just going to take it down and very gently do a little rim in black. So as it's coming out, we're just giving it a bit of encouragement to dry easily there. And you notice that I just went in and out. I didn't even count, because with the second layer, it won't stick to the first layer if you're holding it under for any length of time. So you just want to go in and out, and the second layer will then have a chance to stick to the first one, which is already touch dry but still has a little bit of moisture in there. And then the second layer will probably take longer to dry because of all that moisture that's in the clay. I'm going to show you a different way to do the inside as well, which I don't necessarily encourage you to do at Slow Clay Centre, but you can do it in your own studio when you're a bit more highly skilled. But it is a fantastic method of glazing the inside of a pot, especially if you're going to do the inside different glazed to the outside, is to actually take it around the whole of the inside by doing this, angling the pot against the scoop and then unwinding it as you're taking it around. And that unwinding as you're pouring it out is a really lovely methodology. It took me a long time to master in a Japanese studio with a lot of hilarity, a lot of people laughing at me as I was dropping my pots in the bucket, but it's a really lovely technique to get all around, evenly around the inside of the pot and without too much damage. You can see I've got a little drip there, but if you weren't doing the glaze the same, you could just wipe it off. I'm going to do the glaze the same though, and then I'll turn it upside down and put my thumbs on the bottom and index fingers on the rim and just do the inside the same way as we did it before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out again. And then this time I'll angle it, touch up the rim, angle it onto one index finger while I'm waiting for it to dry. We usually like to leave a good ½ centimetre from the base of the glaze to the base of the pot, and that just means if it does run a little bit, it's not going to run off the pot. And we definitely do that with the second layer. We never take the second layer below the halfway point. So when I move over to the black bucket, I'll demonstrate that. So this is now touch dry. I'm going to wash the glaze off my fingers, and that enables me to touch the pot and then touch up the rim on this one, smooth it out, and then I've got a pot that's being glazed on the inside. If I wanted to just leave it like that, of course I could. There wouldn't be a problem. Normally you'd wait a little bit longer till that touched up area dries before dipping it into the black, but because of the timing with videoing and everything, I'm just going to do it anyway. So I'll just do it down to the halfway point this time, and I'm going to take it a little bit on the inside as well, and then halfway down, 1 and out. So remember, the second layer is just in and out. And there's a pot with the second layer. We won't turn it up the right way yet, because it's not dry, but I just wanted to illustrate that second layer only to the halfway point. If you did get any drips running down onto the bottom, it's very common. You can just have a bucket of water beside you. We always put buckets of water on the table at Slow Clays, sponges. Just wipe off any drips that have gone onto the bottom, and you can even, wipe back really carefully if you've got drips right up to that point, and make sure everything is clean. And then dry your hands, and we put your pots on a board and carry them to the kiln. And then we'll be the next stage. Thanks everyone, bye.